the first webinar of this year's training webinar, so to speak, kind of getting going. So we'll see how, I haven't done these in a while, so hopefully I won't be too rusty. But I do appreciate you guys taking the time to sign up, and hopefully you learn or get reminded of a few things today. Let me know if you have questions along the way, if I'm not making a lot of sense or anything. I don't get offended. I'd rather you understand what I'm having to say than, leave confused. So please take a moment or to say, hey, wait, slow down, that doesn't make sense. Deb from the support team is also on the webinar today. And, I know either one of us tends to work with you. We really enjoy working on the support team and helping all you guys out. So thank you. Okay, that's my ramble. All right, course utilities. I would call this one of our most underappreciated parts of the PD system, but one of also the most important. We forget about it. We get used to doing stuff, people get very comfortable with the course request and the invite register tool, but we forget about the course utilities tool. So I wanted to spend a little time today just kind of refreshing everybody's memory that it's there and the different things you can do with that tool. So let's get started. Okay. If I can get my slides to switch. Okay. So today I really want to make sure you understand how to use the tool to change the status. You guys should all be doing that and know how to do that, because when you've got to mark something complete or posted, that's where you go. Also want to talk about how you can change a course request type. So if you need to change it from a single session to a multi-session, you can use the tool to do that. And so we'll make sure you understand that and how to do that. It's also where you go and where you should always go to change the seat count of a course once it's open. Before it's open, it's totally appropriate to make changes under tab 7 of the course request, but once your course is open and people have started registering, the best and really the only way you should be updating seats is with that utility. And we'll talk, when we get to that section, we'll talk about the why. I'm a why guy. If I know why, I'm more likely to follow the rules. I don't know if that makes sense, it just, I don't know. So we'll go over that. Of course, we'll talk about how to delete a course and what happens and why if sometimes you try to delete a course and it won't let you. What's the reason behind that? And we're also going to talk about how to delete an evaluation. Because sometimes users will go in and think they're answering an evaluation for the wrong course or a different course, and they realize that and they want to redo it. So we do have a way for you to go back, delete it so they can redo it. Those are kind of the 5 main things. If you have questions, we can talk about other stuff as well. Okay, so the status of the course. So to get to course utilities, it's always under, for you guys, the Management tab, PD Manager, Course Utilities. Instructors and facilitators also have access to course utilities under their menus, but it's limited. They're not going to see everything on the screen like you do because they don't get access to everything. So if you were to shadow instructor and go there, they're going to only have the first 2 radio buttons. They're going to have the ability to update a status or to add seats to their course. And you might say, well, why would an instructor need to update a status? Well, a good example might be, say they've gone in and they've graded a course or verified attendance, however you want to, call that. And then they realize that, oh, you know what? I pressed that grades in button, but now I'm looking at my sign-in sheet and I need to add some people that wrote their names in at the bottom and they weren't registered. Well, you can't use the invite register tool for a course that's grades in. It has to be open. So we give them the ability to go and set that status back so that then they could add those people. So that's why instructors and facilitators have that ability. Not every district trains them on how to use it. It's kind of up to you guys. So I just wanted to add that before I went off too far. Okay, so if I want to go in and I want to update a status of a course. I'm going to go to the course utility screen, and the first thing I'm going to do is hit that radio button status. And the next thing I need to do is tell the system which course I want to update. And then you have to, even if it's a single session, you always have to pick a session. You know, and on status, it doesn't matter what session, you just have to pick one if it's a multi-session, but it needs to, at least it's how you trigger the system to recognize that course. I know a lot of people are like, well, why? I'm changing the status over the whole course. I'm not changing the status of the session. It's just kind of the way it is. And when you do that, the screen loads, oops, I guess I'm skipping ahead. It'll load that course, and then you can go ahead and select your new status. Well, let's talk about statuses a little bit. There are 9 different statuses within the system. The first one is pending, and that's that status that when a course request was first created is assigned. And that's a quick way for you to know that someone's created a course, but they haven't submitted it for review yet. And of course, the second status is review. So someone's gone ahead and they've created a course request. They've done all 7 screens, and they made it to that last screen where it pressed submit. And when they press that button, the status changes from pending to review, and the emails are sent out. You know, an email goes to whoever is identified as the PD manager under one of the defaults in the lookup tables, the person that, and they get that email letting them know that someone submitted a course. And it stays in review until it's looked at by someone who has the role of PD manager, and they get to have a couple choices. They can either approve that course, and the status changes to open, which means it's approved, it's open for registration, and now it's viewable under the course registration screen up until the registration closing date. So people also forget that. You know, my class is open, but it's not showing up on that screen. That's where that registration closing date comes into play. If it's passed, it's not going to show up. However, if it's still open and the date's passed, you have the ability to put people in with using that invite register tool. The PD manager also has the option to deny a course, which it just changes the status to denied. The course requester will still see that course under their course request screen, and their course, when they're under the instructor course email grading thing, they'll see it and it'll show it's denied. They could go in and look at it and stuff, but the only way for them to resubmit it, they'd have to work with you to get the status changed back to review so that they could go make changes and resubmit it. And then, of course, the 5th status is grades in. So that's that grade, that's that status after the course is over. It lets us know that the instructor/facilitator has taken the time and verified who showed up and awarded the appropriate number of credits. While it's in grades in, you can't use the invite register tool. It won't show up in the drop-down list. You know, so that's why we give them, like I said, instructors the ability to set it back one so they can add or make changes to that attendance. After grades in, that's when the PD manager comes in and they do a double check of the attendance, and they would mark it complete. When the course is complete, it shows up on the post credit screen, so you can post the credits and process any holds. And it also, when the course is in the complete status and it's been processed, that course shows up in one of the Excel files to upload into another system, whether you're using Skyward or if you use Business Plus or so on. And after you've uploaded your credits, you would change the status to posted. And posted is the status that lets you know, hey, we've done everything we need to do with this course, we're done with it. This is an important step, because until a course has been posted, those credits don't show up on the transcript. So I have a lot of districts that are really great at getting to the completed stage, and they even process the holds, and they technically award a post date, but they forget until it's changed to posted that it doesn't show up on the transcript. So that's important to know when people are calling and asking questions, you know, to know what these statuses mean. Finally, canceled is a status that, you know, you decided you're not going to offer that course. And then the last one is putting something on hold. So maybe you need to wait. This one's a little tricky to get off of hold. You have to work with the PD system, with the support team right now. That's what that last status is. Kind of rambling, but are there any questions? Do you guys understand all the statuses and kind of how they fit? And Deb, am I making sense? Or Deb, she has to put up with me.
You're doing great.
Okay. Okay, so back to changing the status. All right. So like I said, you're going to select the radio button first. You're going to pick your course, and you just need to pick a session, doesn't matter which one. When you do that, this part of the screen will fill in. It's going to verify that, yes, this is the right course, has some of those details like dates, the seats, and it'll tell you what the current status is. It's also going to tell you the type of course, you know, request type. Is it a single session, a multi-session, conference, whatever. So then you're going to select, so here's the current status. Well, what status do I want it to be now from the drop down? And it's going to autofill with the request type to what's here. If you're just changing the status, you want to leave that alone. And you're going to save your changes. And presto magnifico, it'll all be done. So it's pretty simple. Like I said, you know, don't mess with the request type. If you're just doing status, you want to make sure it stays the same, and things will be done. Okay. So after, okay, my slide, this slide's in here twice, let me move over. Okay. So that's changing the status. The next common thing that we use the course utilities for is updating the seat count or changing the seat count. And like I said, this is a big one. Once a course is open, this is the only place you should do this. People get this confused. I know now that when I'm training instructors, I kind of hammer this in because they think, well, it's really easy to go to course request and just change the seats. The reason you don't want to do it there is it doesn't do the math. Unless you are really good with math, the system doesn't always, the system may give you more seats, but the remaining doesn't get updated. And if there is a wait list, if you do it on course utilities, there's no trigger within the system to move people off. So by using course utilities, it does the math for you. It pulls people off the wait list if there is one, and then it sends out the appropriate system message, you know, like, hey, you were on the wait list, now you're not. When you're in the course request screen, there's no triggers, so none of those behind the scenes things happen. And that's where we get a lot of when seat counts get off. It's typically because people haven't used this utility. Okay, so just like before, you need to tell the system what option you want to do. So you're going to start by selecting that radio button, seats, and of course you're going to pick your course. And this one, that session thing is really important. So if this is a multiple session course, I'm going to have to repeat this for each session that I want to change the seat count on. And like before, once you select these two fields, all the information is going to auto-populate here in the middle screen. You'll see what your current seat count is and how many seats you have available. And down here, you're going to tell it, what do you want your total seats available to be? Not how many seats you want to add, but what's the overall total? So right here, I've got 5 seats originally. Well, now I want to open it up to 10 seats. I'm adding 5 seats, but I still, in here, put the total, so 10. So the system's going to do the math for me. It's going to add 5 extra seats, and it's going to adjust this remaining, so it'd be 9. And I'm going to press save, and you're done. If you come here and you have a wait list, there's a couple of sites where It only wants to let you add one seat at a time, and we haven't figured out why you're different than everybody else, but just know that it only really ever happens with waitlists, and it's 2 out of all of our PD sites. And if you need help with that, keep contacting support and we'll work with you on that. But that's the big one. That's how we add seats. And like I said, instructors and facilitators have this ability too, so they can do this without having to bug you if needed. So that's seat count. Questions about seats? Okay. We often forget that we can delete a course. And there's actually 2 ways to do it, but this is one way we'll talk about. When you come in here, you're going to go to the select option and you're going to select delete a course. And you're going to pick the course that you want to delete. And you'll notice there's no drop down for session. And it's going to load all your information. And then you have the option to press the delete button. If you come here and you press the delete button and you get an error or a message, I haven't done it in a while, and it won't let you, that's because there's some type of registration within the system. Granted, maybe everybody's canceled, but because there's data in the system, it will not let you delete a course. So your option would be to cancel it. But if you have a course that nobody's registered for, it was by mistake, maybe it was a duplicate or something, this is one way for you to delete that course. If you have a course and there is registration tied to it and you've canceled everybody and you want the course deleted, that's a great time to contact the support team because we can actually go in the database, remove those people so the course can be deleted. But that's a common question Deb and I get is, it won't let me delete the course.
Kinda.
Would you agree, Deb?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. And the reason why it's set up that way is we don't want you to lose any important data. So if there's registrations and you don't realize it, we don't want it, the system just won't let you delete it. It's a safety feature. Okay, that's my ramble about that. Okay, deleting evaluation. This is another common question that people forget about. We'll get an email saying, hey, so-and-so made a mistake on their evaluation, can we delete it? And they call us and ask us to do it for them. But you do have the ability, and it's just like all the others. You're going to select that delete evaluation radio button. You're going to select the course, and then you're going to pick who from that list of registered participants wants their evaluation deleted, and you press the button, and it erases all of their data, and then they can go back and redo it. Questions about that? And I realized I skipped over a slide, so let me go back real quick. The status, or the course request type. So I apologize. I think I just had a typo on the top of the screen. I did. Okay, it's right here. Okay, sometimes you need to change the type, the course type, the request type. So maybe you started the course request and you picked a single session, but then you realize, no, we're going to break this into 2 sessions. And so there's not one where it says, to change the request, but you use the status option. So you're going to select status. You're going to find that course, and you're going to pick the session. You have to still do a session. And this is where it'll load the data, and you can see what the current type is. So say this is a single session, and now I want to make it a multi-session. You would pick that different type of request, but you're going to leave the status alone. You're not going to change it. You're going to keep it the way it is because you have to kind of do it one way or the other. You're changing the status or you're changing the request, and then you're going to save it. The big thing to remember is now that I've changed this from a single session to the multi-session is I have to go back to that course request and add that additional setting or session because the registration won't work until I do that. You get the funky error message actually on the course registration screen because the system is looking. When you're in the registration screen, here I'll just pull up the site real quick. Well, I won't. You'll notice the register buttons look different. One is just a plus and one's an arrow. And the plus is for single sessions, and you just press it and it puts you in because there's only one session. But we know that when it's a multiple session type course, they press the register button, it opens a window of all the sessions included. And so if I have a class that's only has one session, but it's indicated as a multi-session class, it's looking for that open arrow and those classes to show up, but the data is not right. And that's why you get sometimes those funny errors on the course registration screen. And you guys call us in a panic, and we real quickly find that, oh, someone submitted a course that the request type doesn't match the sessions. And we quickly change it and all's well. But that's why it does that. Okay. Deb, am I missing anything? I'm trying to think.
Nope.
Okay. So course utilities, those are kind of the big things. There is an option for payment information, but right now I only have one district that's using that, so I left it off. But if that one district wants a little refresher on that, you know, Deb and I will be happy to show you how to use that part of the tool. But that's it. Course utilities was a short little webinar, a little disjointed, I apologize. I did email you all a handout that kind of reminds you of all these different steps, so you have that to remember what the different radio buttons and options and things you can do with course utilities. And also on everybody's site under the resource tab is the directions as well. Questions? No, Deb, anything you want to add when it comes to course utilities?
Me? I'm doing a webinar.
But that's it. Does anybody have other questions that might be, you know, PD related but not course utility related? I'm happy to stay on the line and answer them. Like today's is kind of a short webinar. Some of our upcoming ones are a lot more in-depth and stuff, but I just thought we'd start with this one because it's a good one to have a refresher. We just forget to use it. So. Any other questions or anything? I know a lot of you are muted. I'll go ahead and unmute you. So if you have any questions for me.
Bree, what you might want to discuss on the request type is the aspect of changing a multi-session to a single session and the issues that can create.
Yes, yes. So that one's a tricky one. If you're just copying a course, and say you copy a course and it was originally a multi-session and now it's a single session, you're going to want to change it. But the big thing is you got to make that sessions tab 7 match. And it's great if you do it before there's any registration because it's simple. You can just delete that extra session, all's good because there's no registration data. However, if people have registered, so say you have a class up, it's a multi-session class, you've got 2 sessions, people have registered for both sessions, and you change your mind, you're going to combine it to be just a single session course. Things will get tricky if you try to change it. You might get some weird errors because when you go and change it and make it single session, you've got to also go back to that, you know, tab 7 and delete that extra session, but it might not let you because there's people enrolled. And that's a good time to get us involved because we can look at who's registered and make sure that the two sessions are the same because basically, you know, maybe someone only registered for the second, not the first. And we can help you adjust things and delete those people from that second session because you may or may not be able to actually delete a session. I can't remember. Can you delete a session if there's enrollment, Deb? I don't remember.
No.
But that's just a good thing to keep in mind if you're going from one to another once the course is open. I always want to kind of think about how is this going to affect things if I get rid of it. Another, this is kind of related but not. Another common question in the support world is you've got a multi-session course out there and you want to add extra sessions after registration has started. Which is great, you can do that, but anybody that registered prior to that new session being added isn't going to be registered for that session. So if you go and print the sign-in sheet for that new session by session, there's not going to be any data. Then people call us in a panic. They're like, well, there's people in my class, but they're not in this session. And it's because it was added after people had started registering. So always keep in mind when you make changes to a class that's open, you got to kind of think about, well, what do I need to do? So what I would suggest in an instance like that, I would go and find out who is in a different session and just use the invite registers tool, pick that new session and add those people to that new session. Or, you can always email support and we'll help you with that. But, it's great. Make changes all you want before a class is open, but once it's open, you really need to be thoughtful about things because computers are computers. They are very systematic. They kind of work in a very linear path. Humans are not. We think kind of in a circular, we bounce around and everything. And computers do exactly as they're told. They don't deviate. And so when we make changes that aren't in a linear path, computers can kind of get confused, I guess would be a good way to put it. So those are just the little things. And people think, well, I should be able to add a session and it should automatically know. But that's just not how computers are designed. A program, a database works. Anything else, Deb? That
I think good.
Okay. Hopefully everybody's doing well and, surviving. Hopefully maybe it's a slower PD time for you so you're able to kind of get caught up on stuff. Deb and I love working with you and I actually really love solving PD puzzles. So, don't be embarrassed to contact the support team with questions. We actually really enjoy it. And honestly, there's nothing too weird you could probably present because we've seen it all at this point. I've been doing PD with HRM Plus forever because I was in your guys' shoes before I started working here. I was at a school district that used the site. So I've kind of seen it all because I've been doing this since 2006, 5, 6. I don't remember when the portal first was created. But that's kind of all I've got to cover today. So feel free to leave the webinar if you want to stay on and have conversation with us. Deb and I will stick around for a little while and we can answer individual questions. You might have a question that's great for the group, so don't be shy. Let us know. Otherwise, thank you.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Bree.
Hey, you're welcome. Hopefully I didn't confuse you.
No.
Okay.
It was
At least
great.
maybe
Thanks.
learn one new thing today. That's kind of my goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Take care. Now, Sherry, I missed. Okay, she's.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I saw your hand is up. Do you have a question, Sherry?
Well, I have a question about, so earlier this week we had a course where it was single track. I changed it to multi-session. She added the second session and they attended it and I didn't do anything else to it. I just entered the clock hours, but the clock hours didn't update from 3 to 4. But I still put in that they earned 4, so did I miss a step?
So the way the system works, like I said, it's very linear. And once the course, this is a great question. Once so when someone registers for a course, it updates a few fields for each individual within the database. And one of those things, when they register, it selects the amount of credits. So, and it puts it into the credit table, the user enrollment credits or whatever.
Okay.
And so if originally there were only 3 credits, that's what's recorded in the table. So if I go and add additional credits after registration is started, you can still give it to them, but the system doesn't have a trigger for each individual to update them. So when you go to the grading screen, it still shows the old number.
Okay, so what I needed to do was invite them to session 2.
Or what, and
then that would have automatic populated it to be 4.
If you have it as an option, yay or nay, but what most people end up doing when that happens, they just email support and say, okay, I had a class, it was 3 credits, we made it 4. And Deb and I have a query that takes 2 seconds, and we'll just go update those original records to the right number.
Well, now that I've already put the grades in, but I haven't completed it yet because they have the 30 days to do the evaluation. So should I email you guys the course number to do that with?
Because if you want the requested to be the correct one, but you've already have you done the earn? Did you update the earn to be right?
Yes.
Then it's fine, but it saves you time because right now you had to go and edit every single person, correct?
Yeah, there was only 4, so.
Okay. But if you get one where you're like, oh, I've got 50 people here and we made a change, don't waste your time editing up everybody. Just email the support team. But it comes down to, I'm trying to put this in a way that makes sense. So
I know I will get calls from HR because when they will go to post this class, they're going to go, Sherry, the class was only 3 and you gave them 4. Is this correct? And I'm going to go, yes.
So that's a good one where you can email us and we'll update that requested. So the requested and the earned are the same if you want.
Okay.
Because I can do that for you real quick. Just say course number such and such needs to be 4. And Deb and I have a magic way of just going in and making that match because I know HR watches and they don't like it and they aren't the same, or at least they want the available
confirmation
to be the same or higher than what they earned. If that makes sense.
Okay.
They don't have a problem if it's available as 4 and they only show up for 3, but if it's flip-flop, they freak out. And it's just the way that databases are because you have the course credit information, but then you have individuals' records as well. And so when they register, it creates that record, but when you make changes midstream, there's not always a process to update. The system just doesn't really know to go back to that original record and change it. The best thing I can think is, it's like a conveyor belt. When you register, your product gets put on the conveyor belt and it's down the line. Well, you may decide to update the product. Well, it's going to update the people that come after the update, not the people that are already down the line. So that's just how databases work. But like you said, you have a support team that loves to problem solve and loves to update. So you just email us and we can have it updated for you in about 2 seconds. And we love
thank you.
You're welcome. Hopefully that didn't confuse you, but
No, but just listening to that, I'm like, ooh, I missed this step.
Well, I'm glad you caught on that. See,
I got the change it to the multi-track, add the session.
That's huge because I just laugh because we all kind of work in our own little way and we remember things. And I've got, I have some users that have been using the system as long as I do, and they still forget that they have the ability to do stuff. But you need, Deb and I.
If you don't do it all the time, you forget how to do it.
Well, that's just it. And I always tell people, your support fees, if you didn't have questions, Deb and I wouldn't have a job. So,
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Well, Deb and I will hang out if anybody else has a question, and I can